Okay, in the previous talk, I wanted to introduce the idea about the importance of the authority of biblical law for Christians. Clearly need to cover that. But of course that authority is the contentious issue. Now, people will be very quick to say that biblical law is irrelevant. In actual fact, that's a very easy hurdle to get over. I think it's very easy to establish the relevance of the Bible, of biblical law in the public square. Here's a quote. The main reason for the English Bible needs to be part of our education as a major source book for literary culture. An atheistic worldview provides no justification for cutting the Bible out of our education. Who said that? Very easy to show the relevance of biblical law for politics. Who said that discussions of my early life, when we all agreed we try to take the fruits of Christianity without the roots, the fruits will wither. I believe that by taking together key elements from the Old and New Testaments, we gain principles to shape economic and social life. Who said that? That wasn't Jonathan Burnside. There we go. So the real issue, folks, is not relevance. The issue is not relevance, the issue is authority. And of course it's problematic because the Enlightenment has left us with this split-level world where most of us assume that faith and public life must be kept apart. There's a classic picture of Napoleon, up on a different, it is literally, I chose that picture because it's literally split level, and there he is, being beneficent towards, symbolically towards the Jews. Now this notion of a split-level world keeps getting repeated ad nauseum in our society. At one level we may react against that superficially, but frankly at a deeper level it sits us all down to the ground. Because faith can then become a matter of private spirituality, and that gets us off the hook of all that messy business of having to engage with politics. Which is why a book like God, Justice and Society is, sort of a bit on a hiding to nothing with parts of the church. And I quote one senior Anglican cleric in his review of my book, which he thought was rather dangerous, when he said, "We live in a world that is held together increasingly by secular public law. We dare not now give up on the ground rules for good behaviour established in public law, principally by human rights legislation." Now that's a very good encapsulation of exactly that kind of split-level worldview, which would allow no traction for biblical law in the public square. And this split-level world works very well for the churches, as that quote demonstrates. It also works even better for secularists who can get on with running the show without any outside interference. Now, the notion that biblical law possesses divine authority is, of course, a key part of our reason, it's our motivation for wanting to hold out public truth. But of course, claims to divine origin is exactly the primary obstacle for liberals. It frightens the horses because the liberal worldview says that questions about law and justice are matters of publicly accessible reason. They are not matters of revealed law. And this reflects the fact that liberal society only accepts as valid those forms of authority to which we give our consent. This is all consistent with that great founding myth of a social contract. So therefore, the only credible forms of authority in a Western liberal democracy are either majoritarian state activity, even majorities can be contested, and the individual will. So to speak of biblical law in the public square then is problematic, because it says that there is an authority to which we ought to defer, which is outside our rules, and it implies that we should set aside what philosophers like Joseph Raz call our independent moral authority. Now, of course, in principle, we are happy to set aside our independent moral authority in deference to certain forms of authority, notably scientific authority. But it goes against the grain to surrender it to divine authority. So within our particular socially constructed understanding of divine law, we see divine law, biblical law, and the question of its authority as bypassing reason. Now, the poster child for divine law that bypasses reason is, of course, Sharia law, which is why any suggestion of its recognition in modern Western law results in an immediate firestorm. Now, inevitably, because Sharia and biblical law are both presented as manifestations of divine law, although with very different assumptions regarding the divine, they do end up getting bracketed unhelpfully in the popular mind. Which is why every time I give a talk about biblical law, usually the first question is about Sharia. So if you speak about biblical law in the public square, I mean, there's a very good reason why hands go up and people say, well, let's now talk about Islamic law. Because there are reasons then why to talk about biblical law in the public square is just the epitome of irrationality and oppression. But I think that liberals are wrong to see the authority of biblical law as bypassing reason. I certainly do uphold the claim that the revealed texts of biblical law can themselves directly inform the process of human discernment on key issues. But that process of human discernment does not exclude reason. Why? Because the process of uncovering the jurisprudence of the revealed text, excavating the jurisprudence of the text, is only possible because the text can be reasoned about. We can look for the reasons underlying the law in the revealed text. And this is explicit in how biblical law is presented. It presents itself as a source and means of rational reflection. So I take the account of the giving of the law at Sinai as really paradigmatic for how we should understand it. You know, the medium is the message. Israel is freed from slavery in Egypt. She's rescued. She's brought to a safe space at Sinai. If Colin Humphreys in Cambridge is right, it was an amazingly fertile, abundant place in Arabia. But the point is, they're given a clear choice about whether they want to accept it or reject it. Even after that, in Deuteronomy is full of repeated exhortations to choose, and all these big dramatic, public rituals about choice between obedience and disobedience. And they show the continuing importance of a submission, yes, but a submission which is a product of, among other things, rational choice. And it's not surprising then that biblical law is characterised by extensive use of the motivation clause, which is all about providing reasons for obeying Torah, honour your father and mother, that you may live long in the land which the Lord your God is giving you. Biblical law is remarkable compared to other ancient Near Eastern bodies of law because it uses the motive clause far more extensively. I was doing some reading over Christmas and New Year, the works of Jeremy Bentham, the famous legal positivist who believed that jurisprudence and theology should never meet, and was very much the architect of a lot of our kind of thoroughgoing atheistic secularist programs anticipated by Bentham. But of course, it's interesting, one of the things he's most keen that law should reflect is that law should be full of reasons. Law should be chock full of reasons, he says. We should always know the reason for a particular rule. And he ought to resonate it with the way biblical law consciously presents itself. The point I'm making is that pure submission to an externally imposed authority is not a biblical notion. This is what we fear from talk about biblical law, but pure submission to externally imposed authority is not a biblical notion. It's not how biblical law presents itself. Instead, we find that the anthropology of the giving of the law, the way in which it's meant to be received, is about forms of authority, which, if you think about all those classic verses in Proverbs and Deuteronomy, it's all taking place at the level of family instruction in the home, discussion. Think about it when you get up in the morning, before you go at night, talk about it, talk it with talk about it with friends on your road or on the way. It's outdoor debate. We have whole national events or readings of Torah and discussion described for us in Chronicles. And all of this doesn't simply presuppose rational discourse. It is a celebration of rational discourse. And in that sense, biblical law makes very particular anthropological assumptions. And there's a lot more that could be said about this, but people who think about Sinai and saying, oh, this is God handing down rules, which are imposed on people, how often is that said? But that's not the way the story goes. It's all about encounter. Moses has to go up into the mountain. He goes into a place which is hidden. He has to discover the law. It's in the context of worship. There is dialogue. He's back up and down the mountain. There's, there are things that that people don't want to do, and then so the mode in which the law is given changes. There is encounter. There is relationship. There is discussion. There is rationality. And so I think drawing on the work of people like Jean Porter, we can say very confidently that the imago Dei of biblical theology encourages us to think that human beings might be able to understand something of the reasons behind divine law, she says, and I agree. That is the explicit anthropology which we are given in biblical law, which is of a God who seeks to be known. Okay? Even if, as Moses encounters God in the cleft, it's in the context of what he doesn't know. But still, it's in the context of a God who seeks to be known. So we can uncover the jurisprudence of biblical law in a rational manner. And in that sense, the anthropology of biblical law is an outright challenge to the standard liberal critique of revealed law, that it's just submission to an externally imposed authority. There's another sense in which biblical law presents a challenge to liberals, and that is the debt that liberalism itself pays to Christianity and to biblical law. We could have a whole lecture on the 1,000 golden threads that bind our legal assumptions and ideas to Judeo-Christian thinking. In the meantime, I just recommend if you are reading Joshua Berman's book, Created Equal, which argues for on the standing of our Western debt to Judeo-Christian thought, and there's quite a lot of interesting work that's been published in that just in recent years. Think about, this could be one example, the book of Deuteronomy. There's an argument for saying the book of Deuteronomy is the most ancient antecedent of the American Constitution. A lot of ideas in modern constitutional thought are dependent on the book of Deuteronomy. Lots of people have been writing in recent years about the Christian roots of humanist universalism. Francis Spufford in his little book has a great quote where he says, "The emphasis on people being lovable to God irrespective of what they deserve laid the groundwork for the idea of there being rights owed to people irrespective of their status, their behaviour and their capabilities." Marilyn Robinson, writing of the American Declaration of Independence, says, well, it's only self-evident that all are created equal if there is a prior religious conception of the person. So our culture and judicial tradition have been so profoundly impacted by the Bible and by biblical law that secular humanism, with its Enlightenment emphasis on equality, diversity and inclusivity, is in fact partly dependent, oh the irony, on biblical ideas to make its case. And this has continued well into the 20th century, underpinning the American Civil Rights Movement, for example. So my basic point is that despite all the sound and fury that gets directed against the Bible in public life, there remains a profound sense in which secularism simply accepts the Bible and its values without even questioning them. So we might therefore say that the real problem with biblical law is not in the modern age, is not its lack of authority, but the fact that it is too authoritative for comfort. Now I want to turn to the difficult question of, granted that we can posit some kind of links between the authority of biblical law in what sense does biblical law have any kind of authority over us? And then in the next section I'm going to go on to talk about how that authority is exercised. So this will just take us up to the next 10-15 minutes. So in what sense does biblical law have any kind of authority over us? Now, the traditional answer to this question gets expressed in such terms as God has spoken through his word and revealed his will to all men as to how they should live. Well, that's certainly true. Now, the trouble is that when we answer the question, well, why should we, in terms of the will of God, we will inevitably tend to see the authority of biblical law being exercised in terms of political authority. So the will of God in that sense becomes like the ethical authority of a national government whenever it passes new legislation and gives us new reasons for acting. The danger is that when we think about authority in those kind of political terms, then we will inevitably see God as someone who issues us with rules and commands. God has said, do not commit adultery, so don't. The trouble with this sort of divine command view of ethical authority is that, it looks very like a lot of, well, frankly, old-fashioned 19th century, thinking about authority. It's straight out of Bentham again, or people like John Austin. It's all very positivistic. It's just commands which get issued from a clearly identifiable political sovereign. And here's the thing, those commands can be arbitrary. They might as well be, because the authority comes from the person who's issuing them. So God said, do not commit adultery, but actually from a divine command point of view, God could have said, commit adultery, but he didn't. Now, of course, the reason why God says, do not commit adultery and not commit adultery is because do not commit adultery reflects God's character as a faithful, promise-making, promise-keeping God. So therefore the authority of biblical law must be grounded not in notions of just simply the will of God, and hence political authority, but in the reality of who God is. And if it's grounded in the reality of who God is, then it's grounded in reality, full stop. So this means that an answer to the why question, why does biblical law have ethical authority, must be grounded in some idea of what constitutes reality. And I think this is appropriate because, as Oliver O'Donovan argues in Resurrection and Moral Order, and many of you will be familiar with what he writes about there, authority is a dimension of reality. Because authority constitutes sufficient and meaningful grounds for action. Authority is not simply a matter of commands, it is legitimizing permission. What does authority do? Authority authorizes. It gives us freedom to act within boundaries. Back to the sculpture again. So I'm hoping to go and conference in Vienna later on in the year. So if my passport allows me to go there, the authority which stands behind that passport, UK government, actually doesn't tell me what I'm going to do all the time when I'm in Vienna. It just authorizes me to make those choices for myself. So I have freedom and authority to spend my time there. So my passport makes me an authorized person, and I exercise my freedom while still being subject to, whatever EU Austrian laws are operating there. There's a great quote from Christopher Wright, who says, "Authority is the predicate or the basis of reality. Authority is the predicate of reality, the source and boundary of freedom." To put it more bluntly, that pillar over there can be seen as an aspect of reality which is exercised in the form of authority over me. If I refuse to accept that reality and run full tilt towards the coffee while ignoring it, it is going to exercise its authority on me in a very clear way. So ethical reality and ethical authority are rooted in what is. And this is relevant for our understanding the ethical authority of biblical law. If authority is the predicate or the basis of reality, as Christopher Wright says, then the authority of the canon of Scripture is that it brings us into contact with reality. So to put it another way, if the Bible disappeared tomorrow for whatever reason, if we believe that the Bible tells us about the nature of reality, then in a sense the disappearance of the Bible doesn't make a difference. What is good and true and right remains exactly the same. And that's the reason why we can be empirical. This is why in our engagement in the public square we can take seriously well-conducted empirical research with appropriate and rigorous methodologies and all the rest of it. Now, I want to just break this down a little bit further and say that the realities to which the Bible and biblical law point to, which exercise authority and make us authorized persons, there's a number of different realities we can point to, which are all kind of interconnected. I have 5 of these to talk about and 5 minutes left, so I can do just about 1 minute on each. But what I want to say at the outset is that each of these realities authorize us. They authorize us to act in different ways. And in authorizing us, give us opportunities to make good choices and so exercise our freedom. But at the same time, they also provide boundaries around our freedom to act. And there isn't a conflict there, because if we heard again in Psalm 119, I will keep thy law continually, and I shall walk at liberty, for I have sought thy precepts. This notion of being authorized to make good choices within boundaries is the essence, in fact, of biblical law. So let's look at each of these realities very quickly in turn. The first is the reality of the existence of the God of the Bible. Ultimately, everything that we would want to say about the authority of biblical law is grounded in the reality of the existence of God. The reality of God always calls forth an ethical response. Think about the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. That's the reality. And you shall love. That's the ethical response. The Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. The 10 Commandments. I am the Lord your God. Who? The reality, and then the ethical response. And of course, connected to that, we have the reality of the nature of the God of the Bible, God's liberating character in the Exodus. God's character is authoritative. It means that we are called, we are authorized to reflect that same character to the world. The reality of human identity and human flourishing. The Bible gives us truth, but not only what it means to be human, not just in terms of what it means to exist, but as we've seen, what it means to flourish, to live life well, to be restored to God in Christ, and hence being under God's authority, is fundamental to human identity and well-being. Another dimension of reality, the reality of Jesus' resurrection, the greatest historical event to which the Bible gives witness. This is, of course, the overturning of the judgment on Jesus' trial. It's the vindication of Jesus' claim to be the true Lord. Caiaphas was wrong, Pilate was wrong, Jesus was right. And the vindication of Jesus' claim to be the true Lord, of course, has enormous political and ethical implications, because after all, if Jesus is Lord, then Caesar is not. In this sense too, resurrection is an aspect of reality, and in Revelation 11:15, the kingdom of this world has become the kingdom of our God and of his Christ. Ethical implications. Lastly, the reality of the mission of the people of God. The resurrection of Jesus is followed by the commissioning of the disciples, and this also authorizes us to act in particular ways. And Jesus says, "As the Father has sent me, so I sent you." So as Jesus was sent by God to Israel to accomplish God's purposes, so that the disciples are sent by God into the world to accomplish God's purposes. And in the context of biblical law again, think about Israel's vocation. Vocation precedes the giving of the law. Her vocation is to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Her job is to stand like a priest and speak blessing. And just as the priest is authorized to bless, the Lord bless you and keep you, the Lord make his face to shine upon you and to give you peace. That is Israel's function in relation to the rest of the world. She is to mediate God's blessing, wisdom, knowledge of Torah, and the character of God to the world. She's sort of God's showroom to the nations. And so the people of God in both the Old and the New Testaments have a mission to mediate God's blessing to the world by reflecting his character. And that shows what God requires of all human communities, including Europe and the United Kingdom in the 21st century. So, just to conclude before we have, I think, coffee, if it is true that we are convinced by all of these things, by these interconnected realities, the existence of God, his nature, human identity, flourishing, the resurrection, and the fact that we have a mission to spread these things, then it follows that we can't avoid claims to authority. If we're saying that these things are real, and that authority is the predicate of reality, then it follows that inasmuch as we are promoting these things, we are authorized persons because we are spreading reality. Right? So given that there is an inescapable authority to biblical law which authorizes us to act, then the next question which arises is how do we do it? Do we come out with all guns blazing, telling people, thou shalt or thou shalt not? Well, clearly there are some real dangers and challenges for us in learning how to handle responsibly this extraordinary treasure that we've been given. We're not to be monkeys with revolvers. So that's the how question, and we'll come to that next.